Pat Welch, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Pat. The
I
Pat.
know this is kind of different, but before we hit recording, we were both talking about usually when we were in trouble, we were getting called Patrick, or you throw in the middle name and pooh, you're in deep doo doo.
Oh yeah,
What is your middle name?
Joseph.
Oh, same here.
No,
Yeah,
yeah,
Patrick Joseph O'Donnell.
yeah.
It's
That's
fun. It's funny
Patrick Joseph.
because there was another Patrick Joseph O'Donnell in the city of Milwaukee that really messed up my chances of getting hired with the Milwaukee Police Department at first. They do like a little mini background to make sure you're not like some wanted felon or something like that. I get a letter in the mail saying, "Hey, thanks for trying out. Due to your extensive criminal background, we're gonna have to reject you." I'm like, I got a speeding ticket when I was 16. I'm like 26 years old. That was 10 years ago, man. What's going on? So I called them and they're like, "Oh," I said, "Could you double check that for me?" And the girl's like, "Hold on." And she's like, "I'm sorry." And I'm like, "Is this how thorough you guys are? That's kind of
Yeah,
frightening
yeah.
to me. I'm kind of concerned, but hey, what the heck?" So
Oh,
there's another Patrick Joseph O'Donnell running around that's not such a great guy, as good as us, of course. So yeah.
yeah, correct. And yeah, full-blooded Irish.
Yes, exactly. Always good to have Irish people on my show. Gotta love it. Oh yeah. Uh, let's start out with in the beginning. You wound up in an orphanage in Ireland. How old were you when that happened, and how long did it take you to get adopted?
So my birth mother was a widow when I was born, and so she was 39 years old. Lived up in County Donegal, and it was the 1950s.
Yeah.
Ireland. So when she was about 3 months pregnant, and actually, she owned a thatched roof Irish pub. She and her husband had started that, and then he passed away in 1956. And so she went down to Dublin, left the Irish pub in the hands of her siblings. She also had an 8-year-old daughter, which would be my half sister,
Mm.
and she stayed down in Dublin, in an area south, far south side of Dublin, near a little community called Blackrock. And when I was 3 days old, she took a taxi to St. Patrick's Infant Hospital, which was kind of a misnomer. It was a spinster lady owned it and was
Yeah.
running it, and it did have doctors on staff, and people that lived in the community. Black Rock was considered posh by 1950 standards. So if your kid was sick, you could come over to St. Pat's. It was on multiple acres, and it was basically a home for unwed mothers,
Mm.
uh, till they had their child, and then put the child up for adoption. So while they were there on site, they were learning skills. There was for lack of a better term, a laundromat. So the families could bring their laundry, and everything would be done, and they'd come back and pick it up. Some learned how to be seamstress, and they were learning skills because normally it would be, a young Irish girl that was pregnant out of wedlock in the 1950s.
Which was shocking
That's
back then, yes.
yeah, that was not cool. So she had taken a taxi to over to St. Pat's, handed me and 80 Irish pounds to one of the nuns that was helping run the place. And so I lived there till I was 16 months old, and I was adopted by an American family in Kansas City, Missouri. And oddly, it's kind of through Catholic Charities because the nuns in Kansas City knew the nuns in Ireland. So there's a
Okay.
lot of Irish babies ended up in Kansas City
I did not know that.
over the
Okay.
in the 50s and 60s.
Mm.
So I came to the United States literally with the clothes on my back. That's all I had, and I still have them. They're framed in a
Oh,
shadow
is
box.
that cool? Really?
My wife got them framed and gave it to me as a surprise, along with some other stuff. The
Yeah.
flag that the flag that a federal judge gave me. I had to go to court when I was 5.5 years old, and raise my little right hand, take a oath that I allegiance to the United States, and I'm a naturalized citizen, and I have my paperwork and the flag. That was 1963,
Wow.
um, and
That's amazing.
that's framed along with the clothes and some other stuff. So
Have you ever gone back to that orphanage? Or it's probably not an
yes,
orphanage anymore, or is it?
no, no, it's not. In fact, it wasn't even built as an orphanage. It was originally a sergeant major's uh, second home from the English Army, and it was 2 stories. He was quite the ladies' man. On the first floor, every room was cut. There was 2 doors to every room, so he could come in one door and walk out another door to go into another room because he had another girlfriend over there while he had one over here,
Oh
kind
my
of deal.
gosh.
At least that's what the caretaker told me.
Okay.
And so the first time I ever went back to Ireland was 1997, and there's a story behind that. It was my parents' 50th wedding anniversary. My wife and I, it was our 17th. And I have an American-born sister that they adopted when she was 3 days old, and she married a guy named Sullivan.
Oh, okay.
And my dad, my adopted father's family came from County Limerick
Mhm.
sometime before 1861. So I was raised with a lot of Irish, heritage in my relatives on my dad's side. So we all went back to Ireland to celebrate our anniversaries together. It
Yeah.
was my parents' 50th. Um, and before that, however, thanks to the internet, I was not actually looking for my birth mother. Uh, I worked midnights for 13 years.
Okay.
So on my days, yeah, I worked 6 off 2, worked 7 off 2, worked 7 off 4
Okay.
at the beginning. So on my 2 days off, I would just keep my midnight hours.
Okay.
And so it's 4 o'clock in the morning. I jumped on the internet in a chat room called back then we called it pound, not hashtag, uh, the pound symbol. So, but hashtag Ireland for uh, current generations. And there's like 6 or 7 people. I go, hey, anybody actually in Ireland? And one guy goes, yeah, I am. And I go, where are you at? He goes, Dublin. And I said, do you know if St. Pat's Infant Guild? I knew the orphanage had closed, but the guild was that was the business offices in downtown Dublin. I said, do you know if St. Patrick's Guild is still on Haddington Road? And he's like, yeah. How do you know about St. Pat's? And I said, oh, well, I lived in the orphanage. Um, and he goes, so did I. When were you there?
Oh, wow.
And so I said, well, I was there from 57 to 59. He goes, well, I was there in 75. He goes, you know, the orphanage is closed. I go, yeah. He goes, the offices are still open. Have you ever tried to find your birth mother? I said, no, hadn't even thought of it. And I'm 39 years old at the time. And it really didn't bother me being adopted.
Hmm.
And so he goes, well, here's this nun's name and phone number. So I called her and she answered the phone and we talked and she goes, send me a letter with any documentation to prove you're who you say you are. And so I did. That was October of 96. January of 97, I get up about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, worked the night before, and my oldest daughter, Megan, goes, Dad, some lady called. Couldn't understand a word she said, but here's her phone number. And it was Sister Mary Trace. Uh, and that I had talked to in October. So I called her and she goes, well, I found your birth mother. You have a sister, but I can't give you their information. Um, do I have your permission to share your info with them? I said, oh, absolutely. She goes, they may never call. I go, it's all
Great.
right. I wasn't trying. So uh, a couple days later, I get up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, come downstairs. Megan goes, Dad, some lady called, couldn't understand a word she said. Here's the
I
number.
love that. That's so funny.
And it was an Irish exchange, but it wasn't the sister's number.
Yeah.
So I called it back, and it turns out my birth sister answers the phone, and so we get to talking, and she says, "Mummy's," because it's now 9 or 10 o'clock at night their time. She goes, "Mummy's already gone to bed. Could we call you back tomorrow? And what would be a good time?" So we arranged on a time, and she goes, "Mummy's going to be so pleased. Tomorrow is her 79th birthday."
Oh,
So the
wow.
first time she ever got to talk to her son, and her son could talk back as
Yeah.
opposed to cry, was her birthday. And then we were already going over. We already had our airline tickets and everything set to
Oh,
go over to
wow. Okay.
Ireland in September of '97. So my two moms got to spend 3 days together
Oh, is
uh,
that
up in
cool?
county up in County Donegal, and my wife and I we've taken all five kids, and at the time we only had one granddaughter, um, and now we got two. So the younger granddaughter hasn't been to Ireland, but we've taken all the kids over, and my wife and I were just back last year for a week to spend with my sister up in Donegal.
Wow.
So yeah,
What an amazing world we live in. I
well,
just,
it
it's
is, and
that is so
it's
cool.
even more than that, though. In all seriousness, God is good. I, all this is divine intervention, in my book, and uh, and it is amazing how small the world really is.
Boy, you got that right. It sparked a bunch of memories in my mind, whereas the internet started kicking off, and we're at the age, I'm 61 years old. And I remember again, yeah, and we have so much in common. Oh my gosh. I worked graveyards for 13 years. Then I worked 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. for 4 years. Then I went day shift before, finishing out my 25. And I was on the interwebs, and it was kind of a new thing. And there was a Castle Bar chat room. They had chat rooms. So I'm like, hey,
Yeah,
my name is Patrick O'Donnell. My mom and dad are both from Mayo. My dad worked in Castle Bar at the bacon factory, which was a slaughterhouse. They call it the bacon factory.
yeah,
And he worked there. And I said, hey, you know what? My dad's parents were Delia and well Bridget and John P. O'Donnell, John Patrick O'Donnell. And I'm like, does anybody know these people? Sure, shooting. The next day I log on and it's like, I saw your grandpa at the pub almost every night. And I'm like, that's my grandpa. Yeah. We used to, he called them sticks. They were crutches that kind of
oh,
clamped on your forearms. He
yeah,
had horrible, horrible arthritis, and he needed
uh,
those to walk. And nobody had a car. Ireland was a third world country still,
mhm,
and he lived in this little village in a one room farmhouse. He had a real, real small house, and he'd go to the pub every day for dinner and
mm,
probably a couple of cocktails. And and they're like, yeah, we used to give him a ride because he'd be hitching on the side of the road. It was nothing for people to hitchhike back then.
yeah,
There was like no danger. I mean, there wasn't stranger danger like, there is now. I don't even know if they do that anymore over in Ireland. I'm guessing not. But back then, that was just normal.
yeah,
Somebody would take you to the pub and somebody would bring you back. It's like, oh, yeah, I talk to your grandpa all the time. I'm like, oh my gosh, what a small world.
yeah, yeah,
I, I
absolutely.
I just think that's so cool. That's amazing. To me, I love stories like that. So that's pretty cool. Now, did you physically go to where the orphanage was?
Yep. It was closed in '97. My wife and I, we took an afternoon uh, away from my mom and dad and my sister and brother-in-law
Yeah.
to go over to the orphanage, and it was padlock closed. It's a beautiful home. I mean, this was think of a manor size home
Yeah.
that had been turned into. After the independence of the republic, the sergeant major sold the house off, and this spinster lady bought it and turned it into this St. Patrick's Infant Hospital, which was really an orphanage. There
Yeah.
was probably 30 or 40 of us kids, there at various ages. And so we got there, and the front gate and everything, we could see it up on the hill side a little bit. It was padlocked. And so I'm trying to take pictures, through the gate. And this guy comes out of nowhere and introduces himself and that he's the caretaker. And he asked me, may I help you? I said, well, I was born and lived here until I was 16 months old. He goes, when were you here? I said, 57 to 59. He goes, come on in. And
Wow.
he gave us a private tour. And the place, it was like it had been abandoned.
Yeah.
Uh, but it was weird. The orphanage closed sometime in the late 70s, early 80s, and Trinity bought it, and then Trinity College bought it and turned it into a Russian language center. And
Okay.
the Irish and the Russians had a great relationship. The
Mm.
engineers from Ireland would go over and help them design and build uh, runways at airports and different
Yeah.
kinds of things. And then Russian students would come over to Ireland to learn English.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and so they had this exchange program through Trinity. Well, then when USSR collapsed, the Russian language center closed, and the place was just abandoned in the sense that it wasn't being used for anything. So there was this caretaker, and this caretaker had been there when I was there. I mean, he was there like since he was like 18 years old, kind of deal. Not as a orphan, but he lived in the community in Black Rock, and that was his job. And
Okay.
here he was, 40 years later, he's still there. So he took us in and showed us every room in the place, told us the stories of where,
Wow.
you know, here's where the kids, you know, uh, they actually built a solarium, if you will, on the roof of an adjacent part of the manor home, and it was filled with. He had pictures. It was filled with uh, not baby carriage,
Like baby buggies or
not baby
cribs?
bed, cribs. There you go.
Cribs.
It
Yeah.
was filled with cribs, but it was all glass. So that's how
Oh.
we got sun.
Oh,
They couldn't
wow.
take us out on the lawn and play, so
Yeah.
they would put it all in this solarium and in our cribs so that we'd get some, vitamin D, I guess, or whatever. But we were exposed to the sun, and and so it was fascinating. And then we went back in 2001, uh, but we didn't stay in Dublin. We went straight to Donegal,
Yeah.
and we had four of the five kids with us at that time. Um, and then it has since now been a developer bought all the land and built a bunch of it's with an estate or whatever they call it in
Okay.
Ireland. I can't. Yeah, we call it a neighborhood here.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, so it's been developed into a regular housing environment.
How did that make you feel when you walked down there and you're like, man, this is where it all started?
Uh, Typical Irish response, very stoic. you know, and when I say 100% Irish, my youngest daughter, Caitlin, she insisted that I do 23andMe because she did it, and she goes, "I found all, I got DNA relatives in France, and because I'm part this, part Gaul and Iberian Peninsula, and all this percentages." And I'm like, "Sweetheart, I'm 100% Irish." "No, you're not, Dad. Nobody's 100%." So I took so she forced us after 2 years. She bought the kits for me and my wife, and so I took it. I got my results back. Seriously, they narrowed it down to County Donegal, and I am
Yeah.
100%. I don't have a drop of any other DNA based on their testing. It 100% Celtic.
Yeah.
So,
That's
so
so
my
fun.
response was 100 is always 100% Irish. There's no Italian or no French or anything else to blame for how I react to stuff. So it was very stoic. And then meeting my birth mother, she was equally stoic. Uh, Shed a few tears, didn't cry.
Right.
Uh, and here was the only thing she was upset about. I mean, she was upset she had to put me up for adoption, but she never knew I was adopted out of the country. until, you
Mm.
know, the nun reached out to him. And so,
Were you,
yeah,
let me ask you this. Do you know if you were born in a house or were you born in a hospital?
neither. In Ireland, they would have called it they would call it a nursing home
Okay.
type kind of thing. So don't think American nursing home for the
Like,
elderly,
yes.
but more of a halfway house kind of environment, but not a traditional home. I don't know if
Interesting.
I'm explaining that.
Yeah, because
So
both,
it was a couple blocks. It was a couple blocks away from St. Columba's Catholic Church, and the day I was born. I was baptized, and
wow,
then when I was 3 days old is when she took me on a taxi, and then after that, the taxi took her to the train station, and she took the train back to Donegal.
that must have been
And I only
so
know
hard
all
for her.
that because she told me the story.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was.
that must have been heart-wrenching for her. I can't even imagine doing that, but I understand the times and yeah, that would be tough. You know, it's both of my parents were born in farmhouses with a midwife. Yeah,
Yeah,
just how things are. Yeah, that's only one generation away. You know, my kids have they can't even fathom the lives
yeah.
that my parents had. They didn't have electricity. They didn't have plumbing. You know, it's just a totally different way of living.
Well, if you really want to mess with your kids, up until probably the early, maybe mid 80s, if you were in as they say, in hospital, not in the hospital, but if you were in the hospital, you got 2 pints of Guinness a day for medicinal purposes.
Yeah, I like that hospital. You not only need a medical license, you need a bartender license. I love that. That's hilarious. Oh my gosh. Oh, so let's fast forward a little bit. Yeah, I'm very curious to see what your influences were when you were growing up that steered you towards the law, you know, both as an attorney and a police officer.
Yeah. It's so when I was in second grade, remember monkey bars
Oh,
at the
absolutely. I
playground?
still
Yeah.
call them
Well,
monkey bars.
yeah. Well, we had monkey bars, and the Catholics. I've never been to public school except kindergarten. I mean, first grade all the way through law school. So I mean, die in the wool, taught by the nuns, taught by the Jesuits, taught by the Marianists. But when I was in second grade, and our school was 1,200 kids, so the playground was actually the parking lot, asphalt parking lot.
Yes.
And so, as the story goes, only because I don't remember, I either uh, got bumped or pushed or slipped and at the very top of the monkey bars and hit with my head, hit about 8 steel bars on the way down
Oh,
and landed on my head. So I had a traumatic brain injury. I was in a coma, got last rites, yeah, the whole
wow.
whole shoot match. They didn't know, what my mental capacity would be once I came out of the coma. Uh, and the only side effects, the the negative side effects is I have tinnitus in one ear and I have what's called positional vertigo. It did not negatively affect me in any other way. In fact, I credit this. This is the typical Irish BS. If you can't dazzle them with brilliance, baffle them with BS. And I'm about to baffle you. So, uh, I came out of the coma and eventually went back to school, finished second grade, got into third grade, being 100% Irish, and I blame the head injury for this. Is I'm a talker, man. I can talk all day long. I've never met a stranger. Doesn't matter. I can go anywhere in the world. Have done it, and met people on. We hiked the Camino a year ago, part of it in Spain, and I walked away with a dozen new friends.
Sure.
Just type deal. So in the classroom, the nuns did not appreciate my command of the verbal language and skills. So in third grade, unbeknownst to me and my parents, the nun I had kept giving me extra work to keep me quiet in class. Well, it turned out it was the entire fourth grade curriculum, the math, I mean, everything. So at the end of the year, I get called to the office, and my mom and dad are sitting there, and we had a little Irish nun. She had an honest to God, legit shillelagh, and she would
Oh,
use it. She would use it on your noggin.
the
Uh,
blackthorn. Yes.
yep, yeah. And so I'm like, what I do? I'm in trouble. And that's when the nun tells my parents, well, Patrick, kind of talked a lot, and he's actually finished fourth grade already, so we would like to accelerate him from third grade to fifth grade. And and my parents are like, yes, that's one less year of tuition to pay.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
they went for it. And that was a good thing in a way, but I think it also influenced me. I was the only kid that thought I was a fifth grader. All the other fifth graders are like, hey, you're a fourth grader. I got beat up, I got jumped, I got pushed into lockers, I got pushed out of line and going to the cafeteria. And I didn't become a fighter because I was a little guy. But I think it gave me that sense of not being a victim because we didn't have that victim mindset thing,
Right,
but it was
right.
like, and I'm getting picked on, and that's not right, and and that kind of instilled in me that mindset of wanting to help other people that uh, are on the short end of the stick at times. Um, so
Well,
that's where it kind of got started. I never ever wanted to be a lawyer. I had absolutely no desire to be an attorney. Everybody's like, um, you'd make a great attorney because you have the gift of gab, and I had the academic ability and the personality, and I was voted. This is the stupidest thing. This is the downside of education. I was voted most in high school senior most likely to be U.S. president. I'm like, you morons, did you everybody knew I was Irish and adopted, it's like I can't be, but it was always people saying, including my parents, that you'd make a great attorney. And so boom, but I got an undergrad in criminal justice, um, and and went straight to law school. I started college. I was 17 years old,
wow.
and I started law school. I was barely 21, and I was doing what other people expected of me,
Okay.
because I thought, oh, they must be right, and so that's how I got into the legal profession.
Interesting. Now, let me ask you this. I was reading your bio. How did you wind up with the West Wing of the White House? How the heck did that happen?
Uh, I my, so I went to the FBI National Academy,
Sure.
and back in 2010.
That's for those who don't know, that's either you are in command staff or they're grooming you to be in command staff. They send you off to Quantico and you do the FBI Academy.
Yeah, and it's international. Less than 1% of cops worldwide get selected to go to it. So it was a real honor and opportunity. And the week before I'm supposed to go, they send out an email going, "Hey, we have some international students that are going to be in." There was 250 of us in our
Okay.
it's the 240 was the number of the class I was in. And they sent out this thing going, "Hey, we have some international students. If you're interested in rooming with the international student, please respond to this email." So, being the smartass Irishman that I am, I go, I'd be more than happy to room with an international student as long as they're from Ireland. Guess what I get? I mean, 30 minutes after I sent that email, I got a reply with, hey, thank you, congratulations. Your roommate is David Moore, and he's from the Police Service of Northern Ireland.
I was
So,
just gonna say it's gonna be a Brit or yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, something like that.
he comes in, and I mean, he looked more Irish than me, kind of deal. And he was younger. I was 50, 51, 52 years old, uh, going on 53 when I got to the NA. So he's a young guy. He's probably in his mid late 30s, And it took me 2 weeks to finally just come right out and ask him. I got, David, are you Catholic
Or
or
you're
are you
Protestant.
Are you
Yeah.
Protestant? He goes, Pat, I'm Baptist. I thought he was going to say, he's the Church of Ireland. So we were roommates for 10 weeks and had a great time.
Oh, that's
And
great.
our quad mates, so there was two of us in this room, two, and then we had a joint bathroom between us. Our quad mate was a captain on DC Metro Police and was in command of the Dignitary Protection Unit for DC Metro. So one day he comes in our room and goes, "Hey, uh, David and Pat, tomorrow evening, 6 o'clock, and there was going to be another guy, another international student joining us. We're going to have a private tour of the White House." And he goes, "There's only two places you're not going to be able to see or go into. One is the Situation Room.
Yeah, makes sense.
That's off limits.
Yeah.
And the other, and he was not kidding. The other is Monica Lewinsky's office." And literally when we went there, they had the rope stanchion thing. The door was closed, and it's like that is off limits. So I got to step into the Oval Office. We didn't go up to the residence.
Yeah.
Otherwise, man, we got to see everything in the White House, and it was incredible. A
So
great
Clinton
experience.
was the president back then?
Now this was 2010, so uh, no,
Obama?
it was Obama. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
interesting. And
and
Monica Lewinsky's still,
but
oh my
that
gosh.
office was still there, and I
Wow.
heard eventually it was turned into basically a giant closet where they would people would bring gifts to the president or whatever, and they just put them
Guess-
a gift room or something. But
yeah,
it was
yeah.
so funny.
Clinton was getting
It's
all
like,
kinds of gifts. We could do all kinds of bad jokes with this, but I'll leave it alone.
yeah. Remember and I can't think of her name, but when they do the White House press room, uh, the daily briefings
Yeah.
are given to the media. So we got to go there,
Oh,
and I was
cool.
surprised how small the room is. But there was always, I can't remember her name, a 80-year-old lady reporter from New York Times or whatever it was, always got to ask the first question.
Okay.
So I sat in her seat.
That is
uh,
so cool. Oh
so
my
yeah,
gosh.
it was a
It-
blast.
so you did not meet Obama or Biden?
Not at the White House, but I was the local lead of in 2008, local lead for law enforcement during the campaign, and so I've met Obama before he was elected, but it was
Okay.
in '08. Um, and I never met Biden. Um, Clinton, Mrs. Clinton, I've done details for both of them. Bush 43, met Bush 41 back in 1988. I was on the stage with him at an event in Dayton, Ohio.
Neat.
So yeah, it's fascinating to meet these people in person and then and then hear some of the criticisms or uh, compliments that they get, and you're going, "Oh man, you all don't know what you're talking about."
Well, it's funny. I One of my best friends was in charge of the motorcycle unit in
Mm.
Milwaukee, and they obviously do all the motorcades. So
Hmm.
they have, close proximity with, presidents, and he's met a bunch of presidents through the years. And I said, "Who was the nicest?" And he says, "George H.W. Bush."
Oh,
Oh
really?
my God, he was the nicest guy. He said, "Hey, y'all want to go into the Beast?" He showed him the limousine. They're at the
Yeah.
airport. He says, "Y'all want to check out the back?" So they're all, they're getting pictures, in the back of the presidential limo and stuff. And he was just, he was the most personable, nice guy that I've ever met. As far as presidents go.
Huh. And I've met him and Barbara. Uh, W. Bush 43. He's the nicest guy of all of them that I met, including
Yeah, the youngest, the son. That's what I'm
Yeah,
talking about.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, okay. So yeah, that's not HW.
Oh,
That's
I'm sorry. Yeah, I was wrong. No, George
yeah,
W. Yeah.
George W. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, 100% I would tell you. And not only was he the nicest guy, if he met you in person and then came back, and I was on a bunch of details for uh, for Bush because he would come to Dayton a lot because Wright Patterson Air Force Base was there. Um, if he met you one time, the next time he saw you, you did not have to reintroduce yourself. He remembered your name, and he
Wow.
was that gregarious. He'd come off Air Force One and come over and thank all my guys that were in
Yep.
uniform.
That's mhm.
Uh, uh, just uh, just a delightful guy. And I never got to meet Cheney. I wish I would have. And I'm sorry he passed this week. But yeah, but there's some negative stories I could tell you about some of those people too. Not the ones we were just talking about, but some other ones. But I'll bite my tongue.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, it's funny because I have been involved in Mrs. Clinton. Not directly, but obviously the outer perimeter. Then you start talking, and then it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, and they're guarding the hotel. They needed cops to augment all that. Blah blah blah.
right.
And you start talking to people, and it's like, God, is she a bitch? Oh, she's insufferable. And I'm just like, yeah, well, she's been through a lot. She's married to Slick Willie. That's no easy task, I'm sure. And she never wanted any pictures of her around police officers. That was a
It's
huge no-no.
it's worse than that.
Yeah.
I was up. No, I was up close and personal with her.
Oh, okay.
She hates the police
Yeah, that's
so much that on a visit, and she had Secret Service protection, and it's while she was still campaigning. They had not had, um, the convention yet, and
yeah.
everybody's figuring, oh, she's going to win, she's going to win. And in fact, this was in '08. Um, I was sent and trained at the Secret Service along with 23 other commanders from around the country because '08 there was not going to be a sitting president running for reelection.
Mm,
So it was going to be very competitive and Ohio was a swing state. Dayton was a huge Democrat enclave. And in '04, we had 54 visits just to Dayton of the two candidates. So
wow.
'08, we were expecting, the same. So I was up close and personal, and she had Secret Service protection as being the former First Lady.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I was paired with, um, so I was the local lead for the event she was coming to, and she's campaigning. And I'm with the Secret Service, the SAC at the Dayton office when we're literally standing side by side, and I'm in a suit. I was not in uniform, but some of my guys, because I was narcotics commander, we did all that supplemental
Yeah.
security stuff. Not we didn't farm that out to patrol. So some of my guys were in uniform, some were in plain clothes, mixing in the crowd and all that kind of stuff. So um, Todd turns to me. He goes, "Okay, they're 10 minutes out, and her lead for her detail just they're talking, through their ear wigs and stuff. Just told me that when they arrive, Mrs. Clinton does not want to even see a uniformed police officer, and if she does, my ass is going to get handed to me." So I had to get on the radio and tell my guys, hey, all of you that because we're inner perimeter. She
Right.
understands the outer perimeter, but we're inner perimeter, and we're in the venue, at the green room, uh, and so I had to tell my guys, hey, when she gets here, be as inconspicuous and out of sight as possible. And so they did that except for the lieutenant and sergeant, patrol sergeant of that district. They were stationed in the green room.
Mm.
And I didn't find this out until just a couple of years ago, like literally 20, 2019, 2020. I find this out from that lieutenant. He's retired and he's at my house here in Colorado, visiting. He goes, "Hey, remember when you told us all in uniform to, you know, make ourselves scarce? I said, yeah. Well, when she came into the green room, Kelly, the sergeant, me, and they're both in full dress uniform, stood on either side of her, and she just sat there and stared at the wall. She wouldn't talk to them, wouldn't talk to anybody. And he's like, "Screw her. Yeah, we're here to protect her, and if she don't like us, that's her problem." So they literally posted up right next to her in
Good,
the green room.
good.
Yeah.
These are guys and gals that are ready to take a bullet for you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that blows my mind. And it's like no matter what your politics are, for that time you have to be apolitical. You've got one job to do, and that's
Yep.
protect the protectee. It's pretty damn simple, but it's amazing to me. Real quick, I remember I interviewed, and I cannot remember his name. I feel bad. He was shot like 7 or 8 times in the line of duty. It was a firefight. He was out of bullets, and he still went in to try and save one of his guys. And he got shot
Wow.
like I don't know how many times. So he got the presidential Medal of Freedom or whatever that is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Obama was supposed to give it to him, and mysteriously Obama did not want to do it. So Biden did it. He met him in the Oval Office, and he said, "This is incredible. Yeah, I'm in the Oval Office. It's so cool." And I said,
Yeah.
"How's Biden?" He says, "Nicest guy ever." He's like, he looked at me and says, "I can't believe you did that shit." That was the first words he said to him. And I'm like, and I said, "What happened?" He says, "The Joe Biden you see on television now is not even a ghost of what he used to be. He was very charismatic. He was funny. He was, high energy, blah, blah, blah." And he says, "I look at him now and it's pitiful. It's so sad.
Yeah. It's sad. It is sad.
It's
Yeah.
it's almost like elder abuse, I think. But what he went through is just yeah, not cool at all. But oh well, we'll get past that. So you go to law school, and now going to the DA's office. Did you go to the DA's office right after law school?
I was actually hired before I even got my bar exam results. I was hired by a new municipality, a small called Huber Heights, Ohio. It was adjacent to Dayton city limits. A couple of famous football players have come from there, from the high school there, including the current head coach of Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman.
Oh, cool.
Uh, so they hired me as their new first ever city prosecutor and assistant city law director before I had even gotten my bar results.
Wow.
Uh, so that's where I started. I was there for a year, and it was it. I was classified part time, so I also had a private practice. Uh, and at the end of that year, I just it was not what I was looking forward to. The pay sucked. It was $12,000 a year. That was 1982. We had been married. We had our first uh, child was on the way. In fact, he was born a month after I took the bar exam. And uh, I joined a small, well, not a small practice. I subletted space from uh, some lawyers downtown Dayton, and I was in a private practice, but then I was a hired prosecutor. I was a special prosecutor. So
Okay.
I was brought into a couple of jurisdictions on an as needed basis to prosecute cases. So I kept doing that. And when I was doing one of those up in a town called Vandalia, Ohio, the judge, after the case was over, says, "I need to see you in chambers." So I'm like, God, what I do? So I
Right.
go in there, and he goes, "Have you ever thought about being an assistant DA?" And I said, "Yeah, that would be nice, but I don't know the DA. Yeah, I'm not connected with anybody." And he goes, "Well, I am. I used to be the first assistant."
Okay.
Uh, and he picks up the phone and calls a guy named Lee Falke was the elected DA. He goes, "I'm sending this kid down to you. You need to hire him." And
Wow.
they they talk, hangs up, and he goes, "8 o'clock tomorrow morning, be at Mr. Falke's office." At 8:05, I was now an assistant DA, and we and it was a big office. There's 120
Okay.
DAs. I mean, Montgomery County, Ohio is fourth largest county in the state. So, I did that until 1986,
Okay.
and that's when I joined the police department.
What was the most rewarding or frustrating part of that job, being an ADA?
The most rewarding was um, being able to meet and advocate for victims because I helped run the grand jury
Okay.
because Ohio's a grand jury state, and then and I actually second chaired a attempt murder case. So being there for victims and victims' families, that was rewarding because they that was part of the toughest process for them was having to come in before a group of strangers in the grand jury and tell their story. So I learned a lot about empathy and compassion as a result of that. The least rewarding part of it is the politics. Our our elected DA was a Democrat, and I'd voted for Jimmy Carter in '76, but then I voted for Reagan in '80. So he was he was not running for reelection in 1984. And he sent his secretary around to all 120 of us, and she had a little clipboard and wanted to know how much money did you want taken out of your next paycheck as a donation to a friend of Mr. Falkey's that was running for judge in Cleveland, Ohio.
Oh my God.
And yeah, and I was only making $18,000 a year at this point, and we had two kids at that time. And I looked at this lady, and she was like Cruella. That's who she reminded me of. I said, "I'm not donating anything because I can't afford it." And she looks at me and she goes, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yes, ma'am. I'm not donating anything." I got passed over in the next year and a half. I got passed over 5 times for my own docket attorney to be, we had 9 judges, so
Yeah.
each judge had at least 2, if not more, assigned prosecutors. I got passed over 5 times in the next year and a half, and twice I got passed over for guys that had failed the bar exam the first time they took it.
Wow. Yeah, that it is chock filled with politics. There's no getting away from that. That's for sure. Now, when you were an ADA, it depends, on the county or in the state, but were you like physically going out to crime scenes, carrying a gun, doing all that good stuff?
We did not, no, even our major case guys, it was a rarity if there was an officer involved shooting, it was rare that an A.D.A., which would have been a chief of a division, that would, um, not a police chief, but the head of the major case crime pros DA's office was called a chief.
Yeah.
Uh, they were the chief prosecutor. So occasionally they would go out. It was really rare. And so no, I never got called out on any crime scenes. And then
Okay.
as to did I carry a gun? Yes, but for a different reason than being an ADA. So
Okay.
in 1984, 85, I come home from work one evening, and my wife's like, you're always pissy. You hate what you're doing. What do you really want to do? So this was late 1984, and I joined the DA's office in uh, early '84.
Yeah.
And I go, I've always wanted to be a cop. I mean, since I was a little kid, I wanted to be a police officer.